Welcome to UnMASKing with Male Educators. As the year comes to a close, we are looking back at some of our most downloaded episodes of the new season. 2 of the most listened to episodes, and 2 episodes that are very personal to me. In January, we'll be back with fresh conversations with more inspiring male educators from around the globe, and some exciting news about where we're headed for 2026. I wish you and your family and friends a happy holiday. And if you haven't already, please share this episode, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to this podcast. And as always, take out your notes and enjoy the show.
I'm not in education to be a rich mogul. I'm not. But the realities of the world are the realities. And most importantly is I want to send them into the world with empathy. You know, everybody got something going on. You know, not just you today, not just you and your 13-year-old 8th grade feelings. You know, your teachers are people. Your parents were once young people. And even for a lot of you, your grandparents were once young people. So just having appreciation, some critical thinking about, you know, the world that they live in. And I feel like that's the most powerful thing I can do.
That was the voice of this week's guest, Nicholas Ward. Mr. Ward is a middle school history teacher and athletic director in East Oakland, where he's now in his 8th year of teaching. He focuses on making U.S. and world history meaningful and relevant, especially for students from underserved communities. I have seen him set not only big goals for himself as an educator, as a mentor through our work together with the Ever Forward Club, and now as a new, loving, and very proud father. I can't wait to see what he does next, as he's keeping creating his own program to support this partnership between 8th graders and 6th graders at his school. In today's conversation, we discuss 1, how becoming a father has impacted Nick's work as a teacher. 2, a tool Nick uses to be intentional and consistent with his one-on-one check-ins with students outside of the classroom. 3, the mentorship program that Nick piloted in his school in order to empower students across grade levels. 4, how Nick instills the idea of rigor is love with his students and parents at the beginning of the school year. 5, how he teaches history, media literacy, and primary sources in the era of fake news, AI, and smartphone devices. And 6, the principles and practices that Nick implements to start every school year. So are you ready? Take out your notes and let's start today's show. Welcome back to school, and welcome to the 2025-2026 school year and this season of UnMASKing with Male Educators. Please enjoy this back to school series where we'll be talking to students, some of our young men. We'll be talking to educators, men from all over the world, backgrounds and expertise, providing tips and techniques to start the school year. As you know, only 23% of K-12 educators in America are male, and male students face disproportionate levels of discipline on many levels. So let's come together and start the school year off with confidence and effectiveness. We look forward to you being with us this season, and we'll see you soon. Nick Ward, welcome to the UnMASKing with Male Educators podcast, taking off the mask. So glad to have you here.
It's awesome to be here, man. I'm excited.
You know, we go way back, but I want you to let folks out in the world know what you want them to know about you before we jump into this conversation. Introduce yourself in all the ways that make sense for you, and then we'll jump in.
Yeah, I am Nicholas Ward. I'm a middle school history teacher. I'm also the athletic director and co-dean of students based in East Oakland. I'm going into my 8th year, man, which sounds really, really crazy. I'm just hoping to bring some passion and some cultural relevance into my classrooms, try to make a connection with my students, even though it's the distant past. We're still seeing a lot of those themes today. My focus is building mentorships, creating spaces where young people can grow and step into their leadership and be critical thinkers. I'm a new dad, so that got put on the board. I appreciate that. So, you know, life is life and there's still work to be done. I'm super, super excited to be here.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you. Well, I'm glad to be here with you. And, you know, you and I got the opportunity to work together at the middle school with young men and Ever Forward. And, you know, so many things are wild in how schools navigate, operate, and all those things. So you and I have already experienced a mask. I mean, more in a setting with a group of young men, and less so just you and I. So, since you are the guest, you get to decide who goes first. So, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I think you should go first, Branch.
Okay. So, I've been really doing trying to do a better job of like being really present. But as I think about my teacher mask, my educator mask, when I get in front of audiences, the mask that I show. So I'm going to share the front and then I'll share the back. Back, I've been like stirring up a little bit today. So I'm feeling why it's coming up. But let's see with the front. Here we go. So this is my a new character mask I'm working on. And on the front, I wrote busy, passionate, dedicated. Busy has been a word that I have like worn as a badge of honor for a lot of time because I often am busy, but also just like knowing that I used to think growing up, and definitely with my mom, it was like being busy was what got you extra points. Like,
Right.
you know, like the chores are what you got to do anyway. So, but on top of that, what are you doing on top of that? What are you doing to make things work around here? And I was oldest, and with no dad in the house, I was like trying to like always have to cover all these roles that were unspoken but definitely expected. So busy was one thing that I show people. Passionate and dedicated. And I'll go with dedicated as the next one. I'll talk about just, I'm committed to this work. I'm committed to it. And I think even now that I'm not in the classroom, but as I will do this work on the outside, like sometimes like I don't know that I think I'm always feeling I'm busy, but I'm feeling like sometimes I'm not able to fully get everything done. Right? It feels like, man, I can't get busier. Like I can't fit more hours in the day.
And a day, yep.
And I think that's where it was. The back is it enough? That's one of the that's one of it. So I wrote the back, thinking about legacy, and is it enough? And that's what I heard someone say recently on the show. Like, I've been thinking, like, I don't have kids, right? So being with you as a new father, I'm speaking at the Fatherhood Summit coming up in, I think, October. And I also realized that I made a choice, right? And many days of the week, I'm happy with that choice. And then a couple of days that pop in, I'm like, at the end of my name on the family tree, it stops. And sometimes I have a feeling about that. I have some bad feelings come about it. I have some frustrations about it. But those are the things that are really present. And because I have the last one blank, I think I'll just say the other thing that I don't talk much about is just like getting older. Like I was looking at pictures of when I first started the Ever Forward Club. I had not one gray. I was jet black hair.
Yes, sir.
Now I'm salt. It's just not pepper no more. It's just salt. It's all like, what's going on? So it's like I look at these videos like 10 years ago. It's like no grays, and now I'm just like, what in the world happened in 10 years? So I think it's like, then starting to feel pains I never felt before. It was like, oh man, it's getting real. It's getting real, and I think that's a new thing to think about. I don't talk about it. It's the first time I actually even said it on the show that I'm feeling age starting to kick in. So that's what's happening for me. That's the mask.
I'll go ahead and share mine. This is sort of my mask, the smile and everything that I like to show people. But what I wrote here, the first thing was leadership. I think I'm one who likes to show value by doing, and like I want to show up in a strong way for both like my colleagues and my students. The next one I wrote is high expectations. I'm shifting disciplines and moving into because I was teaching a learning lab, which is kind of like covers everything, but like now I'm moving into the history space. I feel a due diligence to make sure that my students know some of that true history and a push for civic duties and change and being critical thinkers about decisions that are made that directly affect them. And so I held a really high standard this year. And there were some kids, I'm sure, with 4.0s. I was like, yo, what is Mr. Ward on? But, it's that push and it's rooted in love. And like like wanting you to go through life and not be so passive and know that you do have a voice. And that last one is just that passion. I have energy for this work. I love this work. Branch, there's some down days. There's a dark stretch of time from that like October to December. Uh, it's dark when you wake up. It's dark when you get home. The work still has to be done in the classroom. It's rough. But every year I try to find some level of passion, to bring to my students. And then the back of my mask, I know we're supposed to write 3, but a 4th one came up for me when I was just sitting here jotting my notes and thinking. That first one I wrote is the self-doubt. And I also have this immense feeling of like, I feel like education is a space where you're always questioning, like, is it enough? Am I doing enough? Do I have enough time? Did I spend enough time with this student? I've been doing this work, 7-8 years now. And there are students that I know that I've spent a lot of time with. And it's been really unfortunate choices that they've made. Some choices you can't take back. But you can't help but feel like, man, did I spend enough time with him? Maybe there was one more conversation we could have had. And so sometimes that comes up for me and it hurts sometimes, but it's never enough. I can't put more hours in a day. The second one I put is burnout. I feel like I try to hide that a lot. Especially like as we go, or we're coming back to school now, I've enjoyed staying in the bed till 9:30, 10 o'clock, playing with my son and stuff like that. And this anxiety sort of comes up now because I know I'm headed into that burnout space that, feet got to hit the road 5, and I'm the athletic director too. So, that's 6 days a week for the entire year. And that emotional load is heavy, especially in an underserved, community that I'm in. That burnout's real. And I think now the third one that I wrote, and yeah, I'm just going to be honest, it's the financial pressure. Supporting a family as a teacher is not easy. Have a new son, like all of this stuff, like it weighs on you. And I'm not in education to be a rich mogul. I'm not. But the realities of the world are the realities, and it's tough. And then this last one, Branch, this 4th one, and I don't know where it's come from, but I think it's because I'm a new father. But I wrote just fear, just a lot of general fear. When he stands up, I'm scared now. Yeah, I worry about the world he's coming up in. I worry about him as a brown body in the world. And I worry about like making sure that I'm instilling in him the like good choices and to be kind and always lead with that. But I know how ugly the world is at the same time. And so, yeah, I fear is just coming up for me. Fear for my students, fear for my son. Part of getting older, I guess.
Man. Thank you for that. Thank you for the. I mean, I resonate with so many of them, and definitely when I remember being in the classroom and that, yeah, they resonate, and definitely the financial pressure of it. I didn't have kids, but I had a life, right? And I was like, okay, man, I can't imagine having. I couldn't have imagined, right? I was like, okay, I'm already finding myself struggling here, just taking care of myself. You know what I mean?
Right.
And now I got another body of human. I mean, I've always had my godsons and things like that. But one question I'll ask you, I mean, maybe it's connected to that fear part. You've seen many young men with fathers. You've seen many young men without fathers. As you coming into this new role as a father, how does that? And last year, because he's a year now, so you had 1 year of school as now a father watching other sons in the room, right? And whether they're sons of fathers who are present or they're sons of fathers who are not present, they're still sons, right? How is that? How did that show up for you just in this past year, or even just in general, as you think about your role now as a teacher, a male teacher, which is very few? I think your school has 2 of them, maybe 3. Or maybe 4. I mean, most schools have very few, right? But how are you seeing that is in your role show up now?
I think there was, there's like a Nick before my son, and then there's this like new Nick after him. I think I assumed a lot, and I think that it was way easier it was way easier for me to navigate hard conversations, and it's much easier to discipline or have these conversations with these students when they're not your own. And I think now that I have my son, I get it. And I think a lot of assumptions, especially with students that have fathers, present in their life, I think that there's an assumption sometimes because they're not the first ones that you call normally. You like usually call up the mom, or is the mom coming up to the school? I've had a lot of conversations with fathers this past year, and I think I had my own assumptions that I had to break. But no, actually, a lot of these fathers are like, please call me. Please let me know. No, I want to be at the parent conference. Can you please send me the grade report? And I think at the end of the day, they all want to do well, even when they say they don't. And they want to do well for the people that show up in their life. And so for me, especially like getting back to school and how I get it, because I have an all boys advisory. And so it's consistency. They need to know that they have this space, this safe space every day at this time. Show up. And sometimes it's that simple. You don't need some long speech. You don't need this rah rah. It's like, hey, I know Mr. Ward going to be right there in room 3 every single day if I need him. And so that's where it starts for me. Just consistency. Cause some male students, I might be the most consistent thing in their life. And that dawned on me maybe at like year 3 or 4. I'm like, oh, you've never had a model of consistency. That's our baseline. That's our standard. I'm here. If you want to do this every single day for 190 days, I'm here. Let's do it.
And sometimes it's not because I want to.
Right.
But I'm not willing to let you like fail on yourself or quit on yourself. And maybe this is what it's going to take, right? It's going to take a reminder regularly that you are something, you're valuable, you mean something, you are enough. And I think sometimes they think there's an ulterior motive, right? Is it like, what do you want from me? Like, I want nothing from you. I just want you to be your best, right? Like, how do you like help pass that message to them? Who are the ones, especially the ones who are like, there's that quote that says some of the students who need the most love will ask for it in the most unloving ways, right?
Unloving ways, yep.
And they try and push you away. They actually even tell you, get away. Don't talk to me. And you're like, and you may give them some space in the moment, but you can see that it's just it's a facade sometimes. You can see it sometimes,
And I've thought about that. I've thought about that. And I have a particular student in mind that I think you and I both know. But I think about him often, and, he's gone on, he's graduated. But this past summer, I'm just thinking about that whole experience and like what a culmination of 3 years daily, multiple times a day in the classroom, outside of the classroom, all this time. Right. And so I've had some time to reflect now that it's all said and done. And what I'm noticing is that they have, when we get them, at least, they're already coming from school cultures that see them as a problem before people. So they're already coming in. I'm this and I'm that. I've been told I act like this and that gets me that. And so I try to flip it on its head, number one, by being consistent, but also like these are young Black and brown boys that haven't been trusted with any leadership or responsibility. So I'm like, hey, you're an 8th grader. You're a peer mentor. Hey, you an advisory. You're a team captain. Hey, you lead our class discussions. Hey, you're on materials. Look, you got to have my back just like I got yours. And I can't just do it by myself. And I think that culture that you have to like start off the year with is so important because it's what drives the rest of the room.
Yeah. And maybe think about that. Like, as we get ready to starting back to school this new year, what are let's just think about it in like a big picture. Like, what are some things you do to build that? I really like the way you told me, like assigning roles, right? Having them be a part of the learning process. You're not a passenger in here. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are a part of this journey and you have to do your work on that side while I do my work on this side. And we meet in the middle to add value, connect in different ways. But what are some things you do and what are some things you see have really supported young men in your classes, definitely in that advisory? And as you see them in advisory, but you also, may get called into their class at certain points, right? To go observe them, or you observe them around campus and you're like, that's some different kind of behavior than what I see when I'm with you. What's that about, right? What are some things you do in the beginning of the year to build that relationship through either advisory or even in the classroom for those who may not be in your advisory?
I think it's time and reps. And when I first started, I wasn't really intentional about it. Like I would see a student, with a football or something, pick up a football, throw the football, and then try to work in a conversation. And that's how I did it for a couple years. And I think in the past maybe 2 to 3 years, I've been hyper focused and very intentional from week to week about students I'm going to check in with. And it does vary. Sometimes it's like, oh, hey, I noticed you get here at 8:30. We're going to check in before school even starts. Or, hey, I know you've been struggling in my class. Let me go ahead and give you a preview 2 hours before you even get here. So, you're not shocked. There's no shock factor. You know exactly what we're going to do. Matter of fact, I printed you a sheet. Here's the agenda for history class today. 2 hours before you get here. And then sometimes it is in some of those soft spaces. It's like, sitting at them with lunch. And actually getting to know them outside of an academic setting. I have this, I'm upset I don't have it now, but I have this booklet, and it has the student's name, the date and time I'm going to check in with them, the notes about the conversation we're going to have. And it's just like a toolkit that I use to be more intentional. And it also helps me lead with some data. It's like, no, actually, I checked in with you on this date and you said this about math class and we were going to do this. Why is it different? And it sort of gives me, it's not Mr. Ward saying it. It's the data right here that this happened. And so you're able to just be a little bit more intentional. And then I also, I want to go beyond just the struggle. Like I feel like the struggle that students have at the beginning of the year coming back to school, like it's easy to identify, but you have to go like one layer deeper. Like, hey, why are you struggling? Is it sleep? Were you not eating properly over the summer? Oh, you didn't read it. You didn't pick up a book the entire summer. And so now you're feeling insecure about your reading levels coming back. These are all things that are playing a role and playing a factor. So I just start by building the trust, getting those small wins. Wins. Oh, you lined up at the door correctly with your voice off. Small win. You take that and it builds momentum, because later in the year, you're going to have some really tough conversations.
And imagine like middle school, there's a lot happening, right? Now, what grade? Are you teaching all grades right now? Are you teaching?
I switched, so now I'm strictly 8th grade.
Okay. So you're going to see them on this entering the heavy round of puberty. You're going to see them on their way to high school. Some of them already think they're adults, right? You're going to
relationships.
Growth spurts just kicked in over this last summer, right? Some have put on 3 or 4 inches and their friends haven't, right? So now it's that, oh, well, I'm 4'7" and you're only 4'4" still, like all the stuff that pops into that level of transformation in middle school for a lot of young people, definitely. What are some things that 8th grade, like you're looking forward to this year? Like you were like, I really like the notebook, and I'll come back before I jump into what you're excited about this year with 8th graders. Is that notebook something you created or something you found? Because I want to make sure that we provide that resource for educators. I think it's a beautiful idea.
Yeah, you can find them. You can find them. Teachers Pay Teachers. You can probably Google a free one. It was just something to help me be like just data driven and not lose track, because I feel like that was my biggest problem. Is I would check in 2 weeks ago by, I'm like, who did I check in with on what day? What were we talking about? And stop letting kids slip through the cracks. It's like, nah, I got you right here.
Yeah, that's powerful. And then and not to mix up stories, right? I didn't know, that's not me. What are you talking about? Then so the way you get to like now be like, oh, we did talk, and I was listening, right? Not only I think it's also not only just having the notes for yourself, but the student realizes, oh, you're listening, right? You're paying attention, right? Even for those students who may not often feel that people listen or pay attention, right? To say,
and that follow through. Like you can't just have the notebook and leave it as a standalone thing. It's like whatever notes you put in that book, the follow through is actually what gives it the power. So if you say, hey, actually I'm popping into your English class, you have to go do that. If you say, hey, in 2 weeks, on Thursday, 1 o'clock, I'm gonna be right here sitting with you at lunch. We're gonna check in again. You got to be there. Otherwise it just loses all of his power and weight.
That consistency.
Yeah.
So thinking about that, like as you get ready for these 8th graders who are on their way to high school, what is something you're excited about, and then what are some things that you try and like send them off with, right? You got 190, 80 days of school. You're going to send them to high school because the stakes get higher in literally next year, right? The stakes get transformatively higher as they move into a new place. What are some things you're like looking forward to, but also some things you try and send them off with?
I look forward to like just empowering them and like having like important dialogue to sort of help them see that they're part of like a way bigger story than like what these textbooks say, and there's stories of struggle and growth and like resistance and change. And you know, if you don't like what you see in your own communities and how powerful that can be, I've piloted sort of this mentorship program, and it's called 8th Grade Mentors Guiding 6th Grade Stars. And that initiative I started last year. It's where the older students can help the younger ones navigate the academic challenges or build confidence. And so, number one, we got the 6th graders coming in, and so they're learning by what they see. And it also teaches those 8th graders that responsibility, that leadership. And most importantly is like, I want to send them into the world with empathy. You know, everybody got something going on, you know, not just you today, not just you and your 13-year-old 8th grade feelings. You know, your teachers are people, your parents were once young people, and even for a lot of you, your grandparents were once young people. So just having appreciation, some critical thinking about, you know, the world that they live in. And I feel like that's the most powerful thing I can do.
So how do you do that? How do you balance the academic rigor of the expectation, like those 4.0 students who's like, what's Mr. Ward up to? What's he tripping about now? To now building community and relationships, right? Because sometimes there's a conflict there, right? Some students, they once they get mad at you, they'll wear that mad at you for months and months, if not forever, right? But how do you balance that academic rigor where I'm expecting a lot of you academically and I care? Because some think that once you've pushed them to this place, you don't care anymore, you know?
I was in a program just recently, and we had a whole unit on rigor, and we had this quote or phrase or whatever, rigor is love. And I'm very transparent, I'm open, and I'm honest at the beginning of the school year. I'm sending parents a syllabus, let them know what it is. These are the expectations. These are some hard deadlines. You know, rigor is love. And if I don't believe in you enough to push you, then I'm not doing my job. And it goes in with like, I was just jotting some notes before we got here, but I was sort of like streamlining my thoughts. But I think that rigor, and the reason like even sometimes the conversation upsets me, especially in East Oakland, is because it comes with this assumption of low expectations for our kids. And so one of my biggest frustrations is like, well, why wouldn't you assume that our students couldn't handle that rigor? You know, these kids are brilliant, and they're going to rise to the occasion when they're challenged, but when they're also respected. So I just didn't want like things to get watered down, you know, when that conversation of rigor starts, because I look at it from the opposite. Well, why would you expect us to put forth low expectations for these kids? And you know, I've had that conversation with parents as well.
And for those students who were like, they were in a class before, they were finished with their work in 12 minutes. Now they come to you, it takes them 50 minutes. They blame you because somehow you made it too hard for them. How do you have those conversations? Because I think those are some skills that teachers need for students who are having more struggles because it's getting harder, and it's supposed to get harder, right? But in their mind, they think I've been just floating through school forever, and now there's one person that's making me work harder. So it must be something wrong with that person, as opposed to my skills are now having to elevate to move into the new level. How do you have those conversations with a student you're having that battle?
Especially with the 4.0 students, like for me, it's like trying to have them peel some more layers back by asking different questions. I'll say like, hey, you know what? This was great. But I think that if you look at it from this approach, or what would be a competing view of this, and sort of have them backtrack and peel back some of their own thinking, it can be powerful. And I'm also a big believer in like differentiation in the room. Hey, you're a 4.0 student. I know you can give me a 5-paragraph essay. beautifully written. But can you make a multimedia project doing the same thing? Can you stand in front of the room and present it? I don't believe in like this cookie cutter way of how everything has to look the same. Oh, you have a 4.0. Oh, you can do a multimedia presentation. Oh, you can write a beautifully written essay, but can you teach a lesson on this? And then maybe they get their grade that way. There's a lot of different ways that you can still pull out what you want to see from a student and build on top of some other skills. So it's like your writing, fantastic, but your public speaking, we can work on that. There's other skills to be built. And, I've had some essays to grade. I've had that same essay put in a PowerPoint. I've had that same PowerPoint presented to the class. I've had students teach a small group, and still getting all the information and things that I want to see on top of just building more independent and independent, thoughtful, empathetic student.
And I think that's really powerful for teachers out there who are about to go into the school year and who are like, oh, what am I going to do with that one kid who I know XYZ? And I think for those students who need more of your time is also an opportunity for those other students not to be just sitting there twiddling their thumbs like, oh, I'm already done. And now they're just like spectators, right? They're just spectators of the other ones here who are less than me, right? Like that. So, and some of them who have that attitude, you have to be like, you may need to adjust that a little bit, maybe this year is not going to catch up with you, but I can imagine down the line is, but and for some of them who are brilliant, who may be brilliant forever, but I think helping them see we're growing through layers of our own development and growth,
Right. And I think that you can have a baseline conversation, even from the top of the class, middle to the bottom. Like, you can have this conversation early on about quantity versus quality, reminding students that, it's not Mr. Ward's name at the top of the paper. It's yours, and it always will be. And the older that you get, no one's coming to save you. It's you. It's your choice. It's your time. It's your effort. And I think once the whole room is sort of working from that point, students will want to rise to that level and to that rigor and show you. I've had, from the beginning of last year to the end of it, just night and day with some of my students, writing presentations, group work. They know Mr. Ward's gonna put you in a group that you might not like. So what? You still got to rise to the occasion and get it done. I'm not asking y'all to go to coffee or lunch, but I am asking you to tell me about Andrew Jackson right now. So yeah, I think working from that standard alone is just like, it's your name at the top of the paper, and they know they're going to hear that 1,000 times this year.
I think about that, like Andrew Jackson, not in particular, but history. How do you bring in history as a context of these stories of the past, and definitely in a world right now where history is under attack, where history is questioned, where history is told that is actually not really real. No, it didn't really happen that way. And our kids are in these social worlds where they're hearing all kind of messages that are rooted in a lot of fallacy, lies, deception, and even sometimes hate. How are you in history bringing those critical thinking skills in a world where sometimes you hear them regurgitating something that they didn't make up themselves, but they're saying they're saying like fact, right? They're saying they're like fact, and you're like, how are you navigating that? Because I have a lot of thoughts about that.
It's an interesting time that we live in, and I'll say this: I've spent a lot of time like working on what is a primary source, what's a secondary source. We've gone through the treasure hunts, like find me an Instagram post that says this or that. Now find me one that says the opposite, right? And sort of we did a lot of those fun games just to like figure out how quick it is, that misinformation is spread or things of that nature. So I've just tried to really push that you guys live in the most interesting time in human history. They're trying to get your attention with a headline. It's your job to read the rest. And that's going to affect, where your money goes, what policies happen, and you guys have to understand this. And then the other piece that I try to couple, Andrew Jackson or a civil rights movement, stuff like that, is I try to make it relevant. Are there any ways that you're seeing this play out in Oakland right now? what parallels or what parts of this story have happened in your own life? What would you have done differently if placed in that same situation? So I'm just trying to make sure that we're not just learning history. Like, I believe they could tell me all the dates and facts and stuff like that. Not saying that that piece is not important, but what are we doing with it? And so I had a project this year where I had them pick a topic that they cared about, whether it was gun control, jail reform, whatever the case may be. And I had them do their civic duty. We wrote out to every student in the room, wrote to the congressman, and signed it with their name, everything like that, and participate in the process. And I think once we can get students more hands-on, when they can see it actually happening, because, history is one of these theoretical concepts and it's all, but no, you can put your hand on a piece of paper. You can write out to a congressman, put the letter in the mail, and it gets there. Right. And so, yeah, just having them actually participate.
Thinking about Oakland itself, and all the exciting chaos that shows up in our city on a regular basis. I literally just found out yesterday how that the superintendent in Oakland got fired. Like, I was not aware of that, because I found myself just kind of like disconnecting from what I find in Oakland sometimes is frustrating as an educator, right? That makes me really confused in a lot of ways. And so when I found out last night, I'm like, oh, I've really taken my foot off of the pulse of seeing what's happening in my city, because if it becomes so frustrating that you just like, I know what the feeling is. It's like to be like, I don't want to hear anymore of this ridiculousness. So you just turn it off, and then you're back. You're like, whoa, what just happened here? So as you help them to like navigate history and how it plays today, how do you navigate? Oakland is, we're probably next in the madness we see in LA, right? Like, we're one of the cities that people love to like use as a opportunity to push their agenda or their power around, right? And I think and Oakland sometimes is glad to push back, right? In many ways. And a lot of people like to come to Oakland to push back, even if they don't care about what they act like they care about, right? So we've seen that too. How does that show up in just what students are navigating in their own worlds, socially, emotionally, culturally, politically? How, as history is concepts of yesteryear, some of them were like 2 months ago, and some history is 2,000 years ago. How does that play in how you envision helping students become more well-rounded in their knowledge?
I think it's just figuring out what they're interested in. I mean, obviously there's a curriculum and there's a pace that we follow, but I think right around like maybe January or February, I was getting all these questions from students that were like, oh, like, what's a deficit? And like, what's going on with this part and that part? And I was like, man, like, maybe I need to just hold a safe space for those questions where we're not judging people's questions. We're not, this isn't necessarily a debate, but it's a discussion. Yeah. And, right around the last like 8-9 minutes of class, it's like let's ask questions. Like, I got one question about like, what's an electoral college? So it's just allowing them to ask the questions that I'm sure, like, you're not going to tap your buddy and be like, hey man, like, what the electoral college, like, those aren't conversations that y'all are getting in the lunchroom. But I want y'all to know that you can come to my room. You can ask those questions. No one's judging you in here. This is a safe space. And as long as we leave this room understanding our civic duty, I feel like that's how they can use their voice, because Oakland's a lot and they know it's a lot. And I know that as kids, they might feel like there's not a lot of ways they can do it. So my little way of helping is making sure they have their tool belt ready and understanding the space they take up in the world and the way the world is moving around them as well.
Yeah, thank you. And I really like the fact that you have them write the letters. I guess one question I would have is, what was one of the topics that surprised you that somebody was interested in? Like, what was a topic that surprised you, or that you were like glad at it could be levels of it, but what was one that you're like, okay? And then maybe a student learned something that they didn't know they were going to learn as they dug into a topic that they thought concerned them.
One of them that really shocked me was speaking to the food deserts. made a really great case about, how in 2025 are there food deserts. You can also argue we live in the most gluttonous time in human history. How is that even possible? Another one was like jail reform and how it's not really a rehabilitating place to be. There was some gun reform. Like, you just see the wide range of just what they're interested in, and you can't fit that into a 30-minute presentation on Andrew Jackson. But I will say I did have it was the last project of the year, and we're in a high Hispanic community, and the project was attitudes towards immigration. And that was one of the most powerful units of our entire year. There's real fear going on in the community, and they needed a place to express that. And there was one class where, we're not taking any notes. We're just talking for this class. This is any questions, any fears, any frustrations. This is all this is going to be for 40 minutes. And that's what we did.
Thank you for doing that. I think that I wish more teachers did that. I think sometimes teachers who I've met over the years just get so stuck into a pacing scale that when there's a need, it gets ignored, which perpetuates for students that you don't care, right? It was perpetuates for students that believe that you're only here for this check, right?
Right.
And I've had to help debunk that often, with students that ain't nobody here for this check. Hey, even the worst among us ain't here for this check, because that ain't what we do this for, But how do you feel? How do you find mentoring? Because you and I got to have a really beautiful time. And first of all, congratulations on creating the program for 8th graders. I think, what do you call it? 8th grade. Say 8th grade mentors support 6th grade stars. Is that how you say it?
Yes.
How have you seen mentorship in your role, but also have you helped to instill that in students through that program, or even just through general classroom teaching?
Yeah, I've just noticed like I think I had this, man, it's so crazy when you just like look at like how you looked at something early on, and now that you got experience and working, it's like, how did I even think that way? Or why didn't I think this way sooner? I just noticed that when students feel a responsibility for something, they take care of it, whether that's materials in the classroom, whether that's other younger students, they have this sense of ownership. And so I found mentorship to be like an incredible piece, not only just for my classrooms and my advisory, but just campus wide. It like just tears down so many bridges or takes off so many masks, because it's like, hey, you particular student, I know for a fact that you struggled with reading as a 6th grader, and now you're at the top of the pack in reading. Why aren't you talking to this 6th grader that's also struggling in reading? And now he has somebody that's much older than him that when he sees in the hall or he sees at lunch, we find some common ground. I think mentorship is an incredible piece, and I think it doesn't really matter your age, your background, where you come from. Everybody needs mentorship. That particular time that we got to work together, I needed your mentorship, I think, in more ways than I thought. And it was just between me and you, man, it was just like awesome to see how you connect and mentor and build trust, and you're consistent. I think that's the teacher's tool belt. You got to show up for these kids. And they know the adults that are, like you just said it, they know the adults that are there and will be there, and they know the ones that, I don't know, I got a funny feeling about this one. And I can say that because I talked to students just very recently, and Branch, they still talk about you. So it's like, it's there. When you popped into my class the other day, they're like, "Oh, Mr. Branch, what's he doing? What's he doing here?" Yeah. They know, man. Mentorship is powerful. It's powerful, and it lasts.
How did you see? Did all 8th graders do it, or you had a select few that did the program?
We're still based in reality, and so it was like, you can apply for this. We'll have an interview process. We're checking behavioral data. We're checking GPAs. If you got a 1.0, I'm not also going to match you up with someone else that got a 1.0. We're not doing any work there in that space. So yeah, I had a process, and I took some kids from student council, and we had an interview process. There was a panel. You had to tell me why mentorship is important for you and what you expect out of it. And we're going to track the data. You working with this student one-to-one, what was the data?
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. I love that. I'm so excited to hear more about that. And I look forward to maybe even having you back again this school year to tell us how it goes in the year 2, because I think it's so important. And helping other teachers who want to create something in their school. I think our hope is that we will inspire educators in the midst of not being able to do everything, that it doesn't leave you doing nothing. So what can we do? What can you do that is low cost, low fidelity, the minimum viable product that you can try, as opposed to saying, well, we have no money to do these big old things, and then we say we do nothing. And I think thank you for doing the work you're doing to, get those young people engaged in that early mentoring process. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Branch. And if I got my note sheet here, and I think for any teachers coming in, back to school, or if this is your first year teaching, I say lead with relationships first. The content comes second. Be clear about your culture and your expectations for your room. Establish your norms in your room from day one. Give students a voice. Check in, set some goals with them. Have them create the class agreements, right? Because it's not me making it. Y'all made it. These are y'all agreements that I'm following in the room. Plan your wins early. The small victories count. And then model your why. Tell your story. Let them know you're a person. Let them know you have down days too. Or let them know when you're sad. We all people in a classroom. And I think kids pick up on way more than we recognize. So just have an open and transparent conversation with them. I think that'll get you some victories going back into school.
Well, Mr. Ward, as we wrap this up, I want to ask you a question. We can talk about teaching. All teachers love talking about teaching, right? That's our thing. And we probably spent more time talking about teaching than I normally do. But I want to ask you, as we close out, Mr. Nicholas Ward, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm stressed. Yeah, it's so funny because I was thinking about just the whole idea of a mask, and I came across this thing that, I wear my mask and I wear it strong, but who's going to check in on a person behind it? So I definitely appreciate you asking me. I'm stressed. I am, life is lifing. I feel like ever since my son got here, everything is, from Monday to Friday, the weeks are just like, man, he's starting to talk and he's wanting to walk now. I've already started my master's program. Yeah, I'm on the road to the PhD, I think, and don't know how it's gonna happen, but it's just faith, man. I think I'm gonna be okay. I got a strong community. I got a lot of people that are here for me. I have mentors, that are willing to help, and I just got to lean into that and trust that it'll be all right.
Yeah. Well, man, I'm only a phone call away. You know that. And
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It was good to pop in your class the other day. So thanks for letting me do that. And
for sure, always open.
Well, I look forward to it. My heart is in that space. So anytime, all I need is a phone call. Mr. Ward, thank you. Thank you. I'm very proud of you. I'm glad to know you. I'm excited about this journey for you, and I look forward to the next chapter.
I appreciate you so much, Branch. You know that, man.
Well, folks, look, Mr. Ward and I, we shared our masks here publicly. We hope that this conversation inspires you. We ask you to share this with any educators out there who are, maybe they're not in their 8th year, maybe they're in their 3rd year, maybe they're in their 1st year. Share this with them so they can pick up on some of these tips. And you can even create your mask anonymously at millionmask.org. And we will gladly have you as a part of this movement to invite people to realize you're not alone. Definitely teachers, please know you're not alone. Male teachers out there in the world, you're not alone. And so, Mr. Ward, thank you, and keep up the great work, brother.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon, folks. Bye now.